East African Community. By virtue of his appointment as the Secretary General, Honorable Dr. Peter Mathuki becomes an ex-officio member of this assembly in accordance with Article 48, Sub-Article 1B, Roman 3 of the treaty. Honorable Dr. Peter Mathuki is present and would like to take his seat in this assembly. However, in accordance with the provisions of Rule 5 of the Rules of Procedure of this assembly, he cannot sit or participate in the proceedings of the House until he takes the oath or affirmation of allegiance to the treaty as a member of the assembly. Rule 5, Sub-Rule 5 specifically states that, and I quote, when a member first attempts to take his or her seat other than at the first sitting of a new House, he or she shall be brought to the table by two members and presented by them to the Speaker, who shall then administer the oath of or affirmation of allegiance to him or her. End of quotes. I therefore request any two members who know Honorable Dr. Peter Mathuki to bring him to the table and present him before me to enable me to administer the oath of allegiance.
I, Peter Mutuku Mathuki, do swear affirm I will give true and faithful service to this assembly, and that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the East African community, and will preserve, protect, and defend the treaty for the establishment of the East African community as by law established. So help me God.
Shake hands. Honorable Dr. Mathuki, Honorable SG, there are two important statutes that you will need to use as an ex officio member of this assembly. And that is the Treaty for the Establishment of the East African Community and the East African Legislative Assembly Rules of Procedure. So I want to hand them to you in the latest versions of the two documents. Okay, thank you very much, honorable members. I think the applause tells it all. Honorable Dr. Masuki, you are most welcome. And congratulations upon your appointment as the Secretary General of the East African Community. And therefore, by virtue of that position, being a member, ex officio member of EALA, congratulations upon your taking of oath. For me in particular, it's a reunion because I served as a member and Dr. Masuki was my committee chair. I was a member of legal committee and something ironic was happening in that committee about the membership. All the members were lawyers except the chair. But I can assure you, until he told you he's not a lawyer, you couldn't notice because he led us in a very brilliant way. Even as lawyers, some of us very inquisitive and willing to challenge him as a non-lawyer, but Dr. Masuki always found a way to lead us properly. And so it was very good news that the community trusted with you this new responsibility. And the assembly is ready and willing to help you, to work with you. And there is a lot of expectations, not only on the part of the assembly, but on the part of the entire community. For the past few weeks, I traveled with the Honorable SG to some partner states. We were able to meet the heads of state, members of the summit. Those tours are still going on, but maybe he will speak about this in more detail, but there is a lot of, what can I say, a new atmosphere out there, a lot of expectations from the members of the summit. They are looking at us as people who are ready to start with a new momentum, building on what was done in the past, but keeping the higher pace. So we pledge our support to you, Honorable SG, and being one of us, in the sense that you have been a member before, it should be easy for you to adapt and to integrate with this assembly and become a valuable member that we are looking up to you to be. Thank you very much, honorable members. So once again, thank you for your welcome to Honorable the Secretary General. You can proceed.
Item number 2 on the order paper, communication from the chair.
Honorable members, I welcome you to this physical sitting after a long period of sitting virtually. You know, there is something very unique about the physical interaction of human beings. Even if we are able to see each other on the screens every day, it's not the same as when you are able to meet physically. So surely we had missed each other a lot since March last year. Although we were innovative and we were able to find a way to continue with our business, and you remember initially it was a big challenge. It was a new ground that we were testing, but eventually everybody emulated our method. I think we were the first assembly that I know to enact rules that govern virtual sittings. So that was our innovation. But now even the United Nations is sitting virtually, even the summit has conducted business virtually. So I think I wanted to thank you for having been innovative, but it was never the same. We needed it to meet again. But we are meeting at a time when we lost one of our colleagues. It would have been a different atmosphere if we had met full house. I don't want to overspeak about this because there is going to be time for that. But we lost our colleague, Honorable Kasamba. We miss him. We will speak about him. And I want, before we proceed, to request you to rise so that we can observe a moment of silence to pray for Honorable Kasamba to rest in eternal peace. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you.
Item number 3 on the order paper. Motion for a resolution of the Assembly to pay tribute to the late Honorable Matthias Kasamba, member of the East African Legislative Assembly.
Yes, honorable members, before I invite the honorable member to move the motion, I think it's been a tradition that when we have a new member, we give a moment for the new member to make his maiden speech. So, Honorable SG, may you take the floor and make your maiden speech as an ex-officio member.
The Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members of this great assembly, let me start by accepting with a lot of humility to rejoin this family of great legislators. It is an assembly that the entire East African and citizens of East Africa look up to in so many ways. And therefore, I feel very humbled to rejoin this. I say rejoining because the Right Honorable Speaker, as you've rightly said, I was a member of this assembly. And I feel honored to rejoin, aware that possibly you are even stronger than possibly that time. And this is now, of course, the expectation by the citizens. But let me, before I proceed, Right Honorable Speaker, join you and honorable members to pay my own tribute and indeed pay for the sudden death of one of your own members, the Honorable Kasamba, who's a great member of this. Please, on behalf of the Secretariat and my own behalf, accept our deepest condolences. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I want to say that indeed it is a very timely moment for me to join and again thank the heads of states and the members of the EAC Summit for having entrusted again me with this responsibility of serving the community, of course, in a different capacity. I am aware, Right Honorable Speaker, honorable members, of the responsibilities ahead of me, and it is my prayer that yourself and honorable members, you join in trying to really focus and realizing the vision and objectives of this community. It's a responsibility that I am aware and I don't take it lightly, but I feel very warm that I'm in the midst of great legislators and a family of the community that will together help to steer this community to where it is expected. And that is in line with, again, with the treaty establishing the East African community. The Right Honorable Speaker, I want again to congratulate you and the entire Assembly for having innovatively tried to readjust under the new normal during the pandemic, and having worked, the work has not suffered. And I think that is the way to go. This is something that I know the citizens of the community appreciate, because even with all the challenges, you are able to continue transacting business of this community, even with all the challenges, Right Honorable Speaker. And as you know, the EALA is one of the critical organs of the community and therefore plays an important role, particularly representing the people of East Africa. When you look at the treaty establishing the community and saying is a people-centered integration, that speaks about this assembly, because you, all of you, represent the people of East Africa. Therefore, I feel so warm to be in this company, and I think this is the right place to be, because I am with the people of East Africa. The Right Honorable Speaker, honorable members, I would say that going forward, and this is again, I want to appreciate you and the support I got from all of you, particularly during my inauguration, even before then, the kind of advice that I got from yourself and most of you members when I got into this. I treasure this, and for this I salute all of you. Going forward, I would urge honorable members and Right Honorable Speaker that we work as a team, because that is what's expected of us. The vision of the community is one. The objectives of the community are the same. And therefore, when the organs of the community, that is this assembly, the secretariat, and the court work together, that sends a lot of hope to the people of East Africa. And therefore, that is what, Right Honorable Speaker, I intend to do. Or as you have said, we have already started engaging, and already, Right Honorable Speaker, honorable members, have started visiting partner states to consult and seek wisdom from their excellencies as the ones carrying the vision of this community. And the kind of message that we are getting is they are happy to see us work as a team going forward. I want to encourage all of you as honorable members that the expectations are very high, not only from my side, but from yourselves as legislators. And their excellencies expect to continue playing that important role. We know, of course, as we were trying to adjust, there were a number of issues to do with members, but honorable members, Right Honorable Speaker, I want to assure you there's a lot of engagements that is going to ensure that the members of this assembly remain strong and focused to their responsibilities. We cannot take for granted the role that you play representing the people. And it's only fair that you are strengthened as an assembly going forward so that you are able to discharge your mandate and duties comfortably. And therefore, with the rest of the organs, I know they also respect that, and they are consulting to make sure that all the issues that could be pending or pending are able to be sorted out. But again, I'll be available, and that should be the policy, open door policy, in the office of the Secretary General, available for each one of you in terms of consultations. And on the same, I would expect and hope you'll be available for me to consult with you collectively and at personal level, so that we make this community great. It is not possible for one person to make it great, but collectively we shall make this community great, and that is my commitment. And therefore, even if we go to partner states, and I hope you'll be doing that as you've been doing, we'll be engaging with all the stakeholders. There are people out there, we have the private sector, we have the civil society. Let us continuously engage with them so that we understand what they want, so that on their behalf, we continue discharging our mandate, honorable members and Right Honorable Speaker. And therefore, some of the things I see them happening, even as we discharge in terms of the decisions of the summit, will be involving you, Right Honorable Speaker, and honorable members to make sure that you also support the Secretariat, because the team spirit will help. We'll be seeing soon the community becoming larger. We're going to have more partner states join. We are going to have DRC join this community very soon. And as we do that, we would want to do these verification missions, even with yourselves as members of this, so that you, as you go to those, you can also strengthen and start preparing the citizens of DRC and other partner states, the importance of this assembly. And therefore, I think I am feeling very warm. I look forward to you. Welcome back to the community. I'm happy to see, of course, yourselves again back, and that should be the spirit. But count on me, and I count on you as we try to drive the agenda of the community forward. I thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Yes, please, Mukhtar, if you can switch off the. Thank you, honorable members. Honorable City, thank you for your very promising maiden speech. Once again, you're most welcome to the House. Honorable Dr. Makame.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. For having this opportunity to table this motion and present it to the House but Mr. Speaker, before I do that formally, because I'm on the floor now, if you may allow, Mr. Speaker, that I congratulate Honorable Dr. Peter Mathuki for being appointed the Secretary General of this community. And we are very happy to receive him here as the youngest member of this community. I remember Dr. Mathuki, when he was the chair of the Legal Rules and Privileges, we had engaged and worked together in Kampala in the 2016 general election. And ever since—
Honorable Makame, please move the motion.
Thank you,
I didn't invite you to debate. I invited you to move the motion.
Yeah, I beg your indulgence.
Just move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, if you can kindly allow some few minutes for the music interlude, there's something the Office of the Clerk prepared as a playback before we.
Is it part of the motion?
No.
You haven't moved.
Okay, let me move, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the motion for a resolution of the Assembly paying tribute to the late Honorable Matthias Kasamba. And I'm moving this under the Article 49 and 59 of the treaty and Rule 26 of the Rules of Procedure of the Assembly. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move.
Seconders? Yes, Honorable Leontine, Honorable Maria Musi, Honorable Namara, Honorable Dr. Oda, Honorable Claude, Honorable George Odongo, Honorable Abdikadir, Honorable Roses Yakoro, Honorable Guijema, Honorable Dr. Alak, and all members standing. Honorable Dr. Makame, can you proceed?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as in your communication, you already communicated to this House that sadly on 27th of April, on the evening of 27th April, we experienced a tragic moment in this assembly, because when we started in 2019, we started as a team of 54, Mr. Speaker.
Dr. Makame?
Yes.
When you move a motion, you read the text that you submitted. Those other commentaries you can make at a later point, because you will have time to justify.
Thank you.
So during justification is when you can make those commentaries. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, whereas the late Matthias Kasamba joined this assembly as one of 9 members elected by the Parliament of Uganda in March 2017 to represent Uganda for 5 years in the Fourth Assembly from 2017 to 2022. And whereas upon commencement of the Fourth Assembly, and due to deep interest that Honorable Kasamba had in agriculture, he was assigned to the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources and Tourism. And whereas at the first sitting of the committee, the members of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources and Tourism unanimously elected Honorable Matthias Kasamba to lead the committee at its first, as its first chairperson in the Fourth Assembly for the first 2.5 years of the Fourth Assembly. And saddened by the death of Honorable Matthias Kasamba, which occurred on 27th April 2021, which was on Tuesday, and recognizing that as the chairperson of the Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources and Tourism, Honorable Matthias Kasamba brought experience in parliamentary affairs and passion as an agriculturalist to the committee, which was visible in the conduct of his affairs of the committee and the assembly, and in his interactions with members, the staff of EALA, the staff of other ESC organs and institutions, legislators in the national parliaments, administrators in the central and local governments, the civil society, farmers, peasants, and all other stakeholders. And further, recognizing that Honorable Kasamba conducted the affairs of the committee with energy and zeal. He accepted diversity, and his very own personality made him very tolerant and likable and appreciated by fellow members of EALA in a very special way. Appreciating the contribution of the late Honorable Matthias Kasamba through the activities and programs that he steered on the Committee of Agriculture, Natural Resources and Tourism, including leading and processing of the East African Lake Victoria Basin Commission Bill, which was passed by the Assembly under the tenure of Honorable Kasamba, and his tireless efforts to raise the budgetary allocation of partner states in the agricultural sector. Further appreciating the efforts of the late Honorable Kasamba in establishing and holding ESC People's Agriculture Budget Summit, which was held in Nairobi in 2018, in Arusha in 2019, and virtually in 2020, bringing together stakeholders in the agricultural sector to discuss challenges and strategies to develop the sector. And remembering with pride and gratitude his passion for farming and his preference for being referred to as the #1 farmer in East Africa. And the motion he moved in this House urging the Council to establish an institution responsible for agriculture and food security in the community and steer the formation of East African Parliamentary Alliance on Food Security, and lobbied to have the Secretariat of that East African Parliamentary Alliance on Food Security here in Arusha, and to be hosted by the Assembly. And also he influenced to have the Honorable Dr. Woda, who is a member of this Assembly, to be its first Secretary General. Recalling the charismatic politician and Pan-Africanist that Honorable Kasamba was, and as a result of which he found his way to both the Parliament of Uganda and this Assembly, and his political mastery and contribution was valued both at the National Resistance Movement Party, his political party in Uganda, and the Assembly, as well as across the region. Indebted to the late Honorable Kasamba for his mentorship on the Committee of Agriculture, Natural Resources and Tourism, and Parliamentary Affairs, especially with positive energy and influence on others, which was also informed by his spirituality and religious beliefs, his intelligence and humility. Grateful to the late Honorable Kasamba for mobilizing members of the Fourth Assembly and coordinating tree planting campaigns at Fantasy Village and the University of Dodoma as a means of supporting the Greening Dodoma campaign idea that was floated by the then Vice President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Her Excellency, Madam Samia Suluhu Hassan. And further, grateful to the late Honorable Kasamba for diligently serving his country, Uganda, this assembly, and our community, and for an enduring legacy of natural resources that he has left our region with, including all the tree planting programs that he had coordinated, supported, and facilitated. Cognizant of the provisions of Article 49(2)(d) of the treaty, which empowers the Assembly to discuss any matter pertaining to the community. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Assembly as follows: that in accordance with Article 49 of the treaty, the Assembly, 1, recognizes the service of the late Honorable Mathias Kasamba to Uganda, this Assembly, and the East African community. 2, is grateful to the late Honorable Mathias Kasamba for his dedication and service as a member of the Assembly from 2017 to 2021, and as the chairperson of the Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Tourism from 2017 to 2020. Extends its deepest condolences and profound sympathy to the family of the deceased for tragic loss of their distinguished son, brother, father, and leader of such high profile and exemplary character. Pays tribute to the late Mathias Kasamba and commiserates with the people of the government of Uganda, the National Resistance Movement, upon passing of the Honorable Mathias Kasamba. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you, Honorable Dr. Makame. Now, if you wish, you could take a few more minutes to justify the motion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I mentioned about Honorable Kasamba being one of us, and we started the journey together, and we were moving together as a family. We spend more time together here at work than we spend with our families home. And so we were looking forward to spend the rest of the time with him, but the God's will, and so it was. But we believe that from his spirituality, his tolerance, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Honorable Kasamba is the person who founded the Wednesday morning prayers, and this is what he will also be remembered about. The interfaith morning prayers being held in Wednesday here, and also Honorable Kasamba, being a tolerant person, was very tolerable. Himself was a Christian Catholic, but members, even in my committee, when we were having a meeting yesterday and last week, we pointed out that he was ready, not just tolerant, but embracing, because he would reach out other faiths as well, because he participated in contributing to repairs of mosques and construction of mosques in Arusha and in Singida. Mr. Speaker, he was a humble and person of humility. He was a Pan-Africanist. He had that drive that he used to inform members in this house that we have to have mindset change in order to move. We have to break the mental barriers. So he's a person who was spirited, that he knew where we are supposed to go, and he had that philosophy, and he was dedicated to serve, and he had a purpose to serve. And if you all will remember Honorable Kasamba was a person who came here in this assembly with one arm. The other arm was lost. And that did not stop him to be a highly spirited and enthusiastic individual. And the picture which comes to me now is when we remember when we went to Dodoma to do a plenary in April 2018, Honorable Kasamba was the chief at the Fantasy Village. So members camped at the Fantasy Village, and Honorable Kasamba was the chief. He was named the Igwe. And in that village, he used to swim with one hand. So I remember that he used to have the spirit, because other people would not swim, but Honorable Kasamba, with one hand, he would swim. With one hand, he used to come and join us in the evening when we were doing preparation for East African and interparliamentary games. He would play football. So Mr. Kasamba was a person who was not incapacitated by the lack of one arm. He used to say he was differently able. And actually, with one hand, he could do more and even help the people who had two arms. So Mr. Kasamba was a different breed. He was really focused, and he served his purpose. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Kasamba was a mobilizer. He mobilized people, members of the assembly, and for that particular reason, even back home, the National Resistance Movement, his party, appointed him the director of mobilization and recruitment and development of CADA. Mr. Speaker, this individual, the Honorable Mr. Kasamba, the late Kasamba, had an impactful personality. I can talk and talk about his attributes. I can say he was a person who was enthusiastic. He was positive-minded. He was a colleague, a senior to others. He was a unifier. He was a team builder. And to many others here, and even people outside the assembly, would remember him as an ambassador of East African cause. He was the founder of the Wednesday prayer breakfast. So, Mr. Speaker, really, I wouldn't really expound much on the late Honorable Kasamba, but I would say that he's a person who served also in the Ugandan parliament, and he served very well, and that's why he also came here. He served in this assembly as the chair of the Agriculture, Natural Resources and Tourism Committee, but was also a member of other committees, and in the Committee of Agriculture and Natural Resources, where he remained after his chairmanship, he was a chair emeritus. So in the Agriculture, Natural Resources and Tourism, we are mourning the passing of our chair emeritus as well. So, Mr. Speaker, having said what I have said, is that at the end of the day, we come to say that a human life can be explained, if it is a book, by 3 pages. The first page is when you are born, and the last page is when you die, and the second page is your story. Honorable Kasamba, the late Kasamba, is a good story. He's leaving us a good story, a good legacy. That is what he will be recalled and remembered about. He played in all social areas, from being a legislator, to being a family person, to being a person who mobilizes, a person who used to be tolerant and embracing. Is someone, we say, he lived his life and he met his purpose and he served it well. So, Mr. Speaker, we should all endeavor when we, at the end of the day, because everyone will come to that finality, we should all be remembered positively and well. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move. I thank you for the opportunity to table this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Dr. Makame. Honorable members, the motion before the House is for a resolution to pay tribute to the late Honorable Matthias Kasamba, member of the East African Legislative Assembly. Debate is open, and I will request you honorable members to be conscious of time, because I think most of you would wish to say something. And this is not the motion we wanted to carry forward tomorrow. So let us, as you speak, as you take the floor, let us try to consider the fact that others also would want to have time. I said Honorable Aden, Honorable Mnya, Honorable Dr. Woda, Honorable Thomas, Honorable Rosia Kor, Honorable Ambassador Fatuma, Honorable Bu, Honorable Musamali. I will pick another list of those. Yes, but the motion was seconded by Honorable Dongo, so you come first.
Right Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, I don't know whether to be sad or to be happy, because I have all the mixed emotions. But just allow me to share with you just very briefly the last moments of the late as I second this motion. Right Honorable Speaker, I was checked in at the National Leadership Institute in Chankwanzi in Uganda with the late Honorable Kasamba. And I was checked into the same room with the late Honorable. So I shared with him a room. And then he began to feel unhealthy. He experienced, I don't know how I could call it technically, but he would feel a little bit disoriented. And at some point, he would collapse. And that happened a couple of times once we were in the institute. So he was taken to hospital the first time for just general checkup. And then he returned and he told me, said, well, some of my results are not out. I've been asked to wait for a week. But I decided to, you know Kasamba very well. He never let anything tie him down, break him down. So he chose to come back to the institute. And for many of you who may not know, the National Leadership Institute is not an easy place to be. It's a very intense environment of both physical and intellectual discourse. So it takes quite a bit of energy. But Honorable Kasamba chose to return back to the institute because he was scheduled to make a presentation on coffee production in Uganda. You know Kasamba very well with his passion for agriculture and particularly coffee. So he was preparing his paper and he didn't want to miss the opportunity to make that presentation before the leaders that were gathered at the National Leadership Institute. So that week when he returned, he was isolated as it is one of the standard operating procedures for 3 days of that weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then he joined us on Monday, again into the program of the week. And then his condition again began to reoccur. So on Friday, he again experienced the same condition. So he said, no, like he was always, he said, no, I'll be fine. So he got up and he was okay. He continued with the training, but he was saying, no, since the results are not yet back, perhaps this is something that requires emergency consideration. So on Saturday, it again reoccurred. And this time, I think like twice. And once that happened, Kasamba was evacuated. So he was evacuated on Sunday morning, very early in the morning. He was evacuated. At the time when he was leaving, I just didn't want to play the video here, but I could play it. He was okay, and he was, as usual, in his jolly mood, giving out the fruits that he had in his room, bananas to whoever cared.
and he got into the ambulance. That was early morning on Sunday. So he traveled back to the hospital. And then on Monday, I talked to him, and he was his usual self. And he said, well, I'm waiting. But then when I inquired, I was told that he had a tumor in the brain. And that tumor was on the first part of the brain. So the doctors thought it wasn't really in a very dangerous position. And therefore, if they carried out an operation, then that would have been one of the ways to get rid of the tumor. Unfortunately, the next day, he was not able to make it in very, very sad circumstances. Now, gentlemen, disaster loves company. Disaster loves company. 1 year ago, we were here and were struck by this disaster called Corona. And for 1 year, we have been away from Arusha. The person who kept us company was Honorable Kasamba. Most of you know that he usually kept throwing these funny jokes on our social media platform. And for us in Uganda, it was an intense period of campaign. But whenever we met Kasamba, he gave us a fresh breath. He was always this kind of very optimistic person who never allowed negativity to put him down. At any one point, he was defiant, so much so that even when this sickness came, he was defiant about it. He felt he would emerge a victor. So he really taught us the spirit of always being optimistic. He was very strong. He was very candid. If you wanted somebody who would give you wise counsel, you'd always go to Honorable Kasamba, and he never spared any moment to give you his wise counsel. He was a very dedicated person who served this community with diligence. Those who traveled with us, and want to thank you, members of the Assembly, for the support that we received as Uganda chapter. And also want to thank those who came and joined us and traveled with us together with the leadership of the Right Honorable Speaker when we were bidding farewell to our brother. You could see from the multitude of people who defied the COVID operation, standard operating procedures to come and wish their son goodbye, that he had left an indelible mark in their lives, in the constituency that he represented for 10 years. He used to joke with us, particularly said, you know, the person who succeeded him, the honorable member whom he actually supported to succeed him when he left to join EALA voluntarily, used to joke because that person was unable to defend that constituency this time round. So he used to say, if me with one hand was able to defend this constituency, you with both hands, you have failed to defend this constituency. You know, so those were the jokes that Kasamba used to throw around. He used to tell us that, you know, when he got his accident, that God was sending a signal to him that you must send somebody, you must send your hands ahead of you to book your place in heaven. So he used to tell us, you people are still waiting, but for me, I already have somebody who has taken my place and is preparing for me in heaven. My hand is already there, because Kasamba lost his hand when he was already an adult. Actually, shortly before that, he joined Parliament. So he used to tell us that, oh, you know, his hand has gone to book. He spoke with a lot of passion and with a lot of conviction, and he led an exemplary life. Kasamba never spoke what he didn't practice. When he spoke about agriculture, he actually practiced agriculture. When he spoke about compassion, you can tell the number of people that Honorable Kasamba was supporting in his community. Actually, for those of you who went and you saw what was going on in Kasamba's home, you can tell that Kasamba began to build himself as an individual at a later stage of his leadership career. The first formative stages of his leadership was dedicated to serving his people. everything that he received, he was just giving it back. He had that open heart. That's what Kasamba was. So, Right Honorable Speaker, we need to get out of our high horses. This is the life that Kasamba lived, the life of humility. And it teaches us something, that in this mortal life of ours, we must, of necessity, be humble. Let's get off our high horses and embrace humanity the way it is, the way Kasamba did. Humble ourselves and know that there is an end to everything. There is a journey, and it is that journey that defines who we are. It is not what you're doing, what you own or whatever, but it's that impact that you leave behind that speaks for you. Kasamba had that character, and it's that character that has spoken for him and continues to speak for him. Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, during these very difficult moments of this assembly and of the community, the only thing that we fed off was hope. There was that sense of optimism that one day things would get better. And Kasamba was the dynamo that drove that hope. Every single day he would say, things are going to get better. Things are going to get better. Right Honorable Speaker, we need to be hopeful. When you have hope, you have the capacity to give the right counsel. When you are hopeless, sometimes you are reckless. Let us cultivate a sense of hope so that whatever decisions we make as an assembly, let us be hopeful that the future is great and the future is better. That way, we are going to have our composure, we are going to be rational, and we shall make decisions that are important for this community. Let's not lose hope, whatever the situation is. Right Honorable Speaker, I'm happy. Let me just make my comment as I sit down that we have sworn in a new Secretary General. Right Honorable Speaker, there are institutions and there are people, and these two are commutative. They are mutually inclusive. The argument that institutions are more powerful and therefore can exist, I have personally contested that argument. And I said institutions reflect the individuals that are part of that institution that make the decisions in those institutions. There is no single institution that does not reflect the character of the leadership of that institution. And that's why it's important today that even as we are swearing in our Secretary General, we are saying that the character of the person of the Secretary General will impact significantly on the conduct of business of this community. I am very glad, Right Honorable Speaker, that in Dr. Mathuki, we have a person whose character has been tested, who has the experience of having been a member of this assembly, but also has worked with the different sectors of the community. And therefore, he brings an experience that will certainly work very positively for driving this community. I thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Bongo. Switch off your microphone. Thank you. Honorable Aden Abdikadir.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to speak to this very important motion. But even as I do that, let me take the quickest possible opportunity to congratulate our new SG. Welcome on board. We are happy to have you here. There can't have been any better person, in my view, other than you, to serve the people of East Africa at this point in time. You are a member of EALA. You participated and did a great work at the private sector in the East African community, enhancing trade to great extent. And now you are head of the Secretariat, the executive arm of the East African community. What I can see for the future of this community is hope. Indeed, with your coming in, a better working relationship between organs, which is now, in my view, one of the most critical things to achieve. and expectations of growth for the people of East Africa in terms of trade, in terms of opportunities, and of course, in terms of implementation of the treaty and the protocol. Welcome on board and congratulations to you, my brother. Right, Honorable Speaker, it's a sad day indeed as we stand to mourn Honorable Kasamba, as I join my colleagues in paying tribute to this fallen hero. Indeed, I agree with Honorable George Odongo that Honorable Kasamba represented hope for the people of East Africa. He challenged himself beyond the human capacity. Sometimes he will do things and go that extra mile, which when some of us, whenever we paid that little care for him in terms of maybe he's a person who's physically disabled, that is the time when he will feel most offended. He will love to spend every moment of energy and time to serve the people of East Africa. We've lost a great leader, and my condolences to his family, the great people of Uganda, and indeed the citizens of East Africa. We will have loved to join you during the burial, all right, Honorable Speaker, but given the circumstances, the reality of the COVID protocol issues in the world we live today, we want to thank you, Honorable Speaker, and the colleagues who represented us in that particular ceremony. I also want to thank the government of Uganda for honoring, right, Mr. Honorable Kasamba, one of the highest respects, which was a state funeral. Indeed, that was an honorable thing, and it showed that the country felt his contribution not only to Uganda, but also to the East African region. Right, Honorable Speaker, Mr. Honorable Kasamba was an expert in agriculture and food security. He is one man who believed that we should be food secure. I have never met a human being, particularly an African, emphasizing on the need for Africa as a whole to be food secure than Honorable Matthias Kasamba. Indeed, he will be remembered a lot, a person who loved good working relationship between members, between colleagues. He was to us like an elder, to be honest. For me, I lost a good friend. His office was next door to mine, and I will spend endless hours consulting him on a number of issues, personal issues, ESC issues, and one thing I can remember that he always emphasized is that we need to work very hard to remove these mental barricades amongst technocrats in the region who are curtailing the growth and the opportunities for the people of East Africa. We will miss him, we mourn him, we stand with the family in this difficult time, Mr. Speaker, and I'm grateful to you for accepting this day for us to pay tribute to our fallen hero. That's what I would like to say, and thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Aden. Honorable Habibu Munya.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for having this opportunity also to say something on our good friend, colleague, late Kasamba. But before I say something, let me also join my colleague to congratulate our new SG, Dr. Peter Mathiko. Dr. Peter, okay, for his new post as SG and also being an ex-official member of this assembly. You're welcome, Dr. Peter. Mr. Speaker, first of all, let me support the motion also. Secondly, the mover of this motion has articulated a lot on page 2 of the life of Kasamba, such that you may think that he has finished or has stayed in all areas, but still yet there's something a lot to explain on Mr. Kasamba. Personally, myself, he was my great friend and my chair of the Committee of Agriculture, Tourism, and Natural Resources. Throughout all the time, 2.5 years being my chairperson of this committee, I never saw Mr. Kasamba being angry. He was also always had a smiling face, joking with all members, and was very serious for his work. He was following time punctually during the committee. I never saw him late during the committee period. Now, if you really explain the life of Mr. Kasamba, he's the only member of parliament he used to give rewards when he was coming, from fruits to coffee, to show that he's one of the great farmers of East Africa. I've never seen any other member of parliament doing that kind of exercise, that he's taking a lot of rewards when he's coming, he's giving to everybody. To all members, Mr. Kasamba did. That means we have a lot to learn in life about Mr. Kasamba. Really, for him to give charity, a lot of things, it was his hobby. Mr. Kasamba was a Christian, but his assistant, Mr. Abbas, was a devoted Muslim. So you can see also that all people, Muslims and Christians, he lived the life where all people were equal to him and he treated everybody equally. Mr. Speaker, I remember very well, and my colleague will also remember, that he was only member of this assembly. He wanted that we, being as a member, we had to find something to do which will be remembered while our tenure is over. He wanted to invest in Arusha. He wanted to invest in Lake Victoria, marine business or housing business, whatever. But he even organized, me, I'm one of those persons, to do something in order that we can invest. And I gave him full support, but I don't know what happened. We never did this. So he had a vision of a lot of things. One of the things which I will request this assembly, Honorable Speaker, to find a means in order that we execute his ideas, his vision, was to plant a jackfruit tree from Uganda to Tanga, where this pipeline is built, the gas pipeline, the fuel pipeline. And he had already collected some seedlings. Mr. Abbas, he will tell us how far he has reached, how many millions of seedlings they already collected in his nursery. This vision or this idea, this assembly, in order to remember Honorable Kasamba, we should not let it die. We have to execute this idea of planting this jackfruit. Mr. Kasamba will remember in the group of EALA, he was always posting the valuable post whereby you learn in life what is happening in this world, whether religiously or in food-wise. Always was posting different, very, very interesting articles. So, okay, we have a lot of things to explain to Mr. Kasamba. We can use a lot of time, and a lot of people need to say something. Let me say this thing. Apart that there were some colleagues of us who participated in the funeral to represent some of us. But yet, Mr. Speaker, this assembly needs to have a special or to enact some special laws when such a member dies, what this assembly should really act on the funeral. We have to thank the government of Uganda. He had a full respect from the government of Uganda, from the post he was there. But as a member of this assembly, we had to show special arrangement for funeral to Honorable Kasamba. And if we missed that, we have to think the way now, in future, what to do. I know in Tanzania, there is a funeral act whereby members from the president, prime minister, vice president, there is a special way of funerals. Not only that, they can choose, there is a place in Dodoma allocated for if you write in your, what we call, in your will, if you write in advance, you can be buried in Dodoma for certain category of special leaders. For this assembly also need to copy for those good things. And there is a different style when a member is dying or has lost his life while we are conducting the business like this, or while he is at home. There are different ways, but we need to do something at this assembly in order that the way that this assembly participated in the funeral of Honorable Kasamba, later Kasamba, is not the way some of us would like. It would be better for that kind of men that we could participate, all of us as members. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that, and I support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Engineer Habib Munya. Next is Honorable Dr. Oda.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. And first of all, I would like to congratulate the new SG, Dr. Peter Mathuki. You are welcome, and we have high expectation in your new leadership. Right Honorable Speaker, it's very hard to stand here and speak about a colleague who was among us before a couple of weeks, and he's not any longer here with us. First of all, I want to convey my heartfelt condolences to the family of late Honorable Matthias Kasamba and the entire chapter of Uganda, EALA members, and all the East African. Honorable Speaker, I remember the first year we joined EALA, I really was interested to be the chair of Agriculture Committee, but when I've seen the passion which Honorable Kasamba have, and I remember Honorable Mary played with me and said, you know, let's give him the chairship of this committee because my colleague really loved agriculture. And then because also the Agriculture Committee was given to Uganda, I submitted to that, but I pledged to Honorable Kasamba that I will help him and I will be with him in that leadership, which really I've done, Honorable Speaker, that the Committee of Agriculture have achieved many things and we stood together with him. As said by Honorable Habib Munya, that Honorable Kasamba was very serious. He never missed a committee unless if he has a very important reason, and he was always on time for that committee. Honorable Speaker, as it was mentioned in the motion that Honorable Kasamba was one of the people who really promoted and helped the EAPA, which is the East African Parliamentarian Alliance for Food Security and Nutrition, to be established. And I was very thankful to God that he has witnessed the inception of that alliance in 2018, April, and he encouraged me to be voted as the SG for that alliances, Honorable Speaker. And I know very well that Honorable Matthias Kasamba was one of the leaders who really loved his people. And he was telling us all the time that East African has to eat 3 decent meals. Whenever we were in this break, he will be joking that some people are eating 5 meals, but we have to work very hard that the East African have to have 3 meals, decent one. And I think, Honorable Speaker, in his memory, we should really urge to establish the institution which he wants for the agriculture and food security. And I want to add that one as an amendment, Honorable Speaker, to the resolution that let's, in honor of Honorable Kasamba, let's urge the Council of Ministers to establish the institution of agriculture and food security. And I would like also to extend the condolences to the family of Honorable Matthias Kasambo on behalf of the EAPA chairperson. He's called Honorable Dr. Abdi Hatsoon and all the members, because they have written even a condolence letter which was given to the late family, and also to you, Honorable Speaker, through your email. Right, Honorable Speaker, I know that Honorable Kasamba was one who really loved God. He was never shy of his belief. We used to come here, few of us, to worship God and put this assembly into the hand of God, Muslims and Christians. He really helped us to have that prayer, the Wednesday prayer. And also Honorable Kasamba was full of energy. Whenever we felt that we are down, he was like a senior colleague, a brother, a colleague who really helped us. Even he was asking about our families. He used to be very friendly, and we'll really miss him. Honorable Speaker, I don't want to be emotional. I remember that when we went to South Sudan for Agriculture Committee, he told me, Dr. Wada, I want to go and see the people, I want to go and see the farm. I remember me and Honorable Dr. Ann and Mary went to a local market. It's across the river called Tugumba Market, and he was interacting with the local people. And we ended up in a very local restaurant whereby we ate in a very South Sudanese way, when you eat in a tray and all of you dip together. And we were so happy by then, and he really loved the country, and he told me I'll come and have some farms in South Sudan. Right, Honorable Speaker, as I'm concluding, by the loss of Honorable Kasamba, we really lost someone who wanted to do many things in this community. And I urge also the Council of Ministers that let's urge the partner states that we honor Malabo Declaration, so that by 2025, we have an East Africa which is free of hunger. He used to tell us, which type of a leader are you if you're leading a hungry community? And I think this should be an inspiration to all of us, that let's do a difference in our life. Because Honorable Kasamba, whenever we go to a partner state, he will say, let's go to the community and do something to the community. We used to go to orphanage, we used to make some contribution to the community, so that they feel that the East Africa Legislative Assembly is around. Right, Honorable Speaker, I would like my amendment to be added if it's agreed by the mover, and I beg to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Dr. Wada. Next was Honorable Claude. Okay, sorry. Who was next? Honorable Thomas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunities in this important motion. First of all, I would want to first congratulate our Secretary General, new Secretary General, Dr. Peter Masuke, of joining this August House. And we expect a lot from him. And as when he was speaking, he quoted it that he would want to work with us as a team in delivering services to this East African community. We don't doubt him. He has a lot of experience as a member of EALA, and again, he served in so many institutions within the community. So my colleague, you are highly welcome, and we are ready to work as a team with you. Second thing is, first of all, to pay my condolences to the family of late colleagues, Honorable Kasama. Again, paying also a tribute and condolences to the chapter of Republic of Uganda and the people of Uganda. Then again, people of East African community as whole. I would want to add my voice to my honorable colleagues who have really speak about our late colleague. Honorable Kasamba is a friend to all of us, friend to all members of this August House. And particularly also, he developed a very firm relationship with us, we in South Sudan. I and him would always call ourselves comrade. I call him comrade because he is a revolutionary person. He's a comrade because Kasamba have shown a spirit of liberating the whole of the EAC from food insecurity. And that is why he really invests in this sector. He has really done a lot when he was the chair of Agriculture Committee, and he has helped all of us also, including we, as my honorable colleague, Dr. Oda, have just said. Honorable Kasamba did a lot, and I could remember one thing he did. Honorable Kasamba, he was actually involved in peace talk between Lord Resistance Army and the government of Uganda, who was actually disturbing the life of both citizens in Uganda and Republic of South Sudan. He did a lot in that sector. With his contribution, he did a lot. And in a few years, we were able also to have peace in the two countries. Honorable Kasamba is actually a colleague whom we will miss. With his contribution to this assembly and the East African community at large, as whole, we will really miss him. When I've heard of his demise, I was actually in Juba. I was really shaken by that news. And it was not an easy thing. What I would want also to share with my other colleagues who have proposed to this August House, to you as the speaker and the council, at least we need to do something which will be a legacy and remembrance of our late colleague. Finally, I may not take time because describing late Kasamba, it can take us the whole day. But with these few contributions and adding my voice to my other colleagues who have really spoken precisely about honorable colleague, I have to end here, but I would want to finally say, may Almighty God rest his soul in eternal peace. Thank you, Honorable Right Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Thomas. Honorable Rosa Cole.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to pay tribute to my colleague, to our friend and a father, Honorable Kasamba. Before I do that, I also want to join colleagues in thanking the Honorable Dr. Peter Mathuki, our new Secretary General, that you're welcome to this house. And in you, we have a lot of hope as individuals and as a community. You're most welcome. Right Honorable Speaker, I'll first of all talk about my experience with Kasamba as a member of parliament, together with him in the Uganda parliament. I think I joined him when he had already served 5 years, but we worked together for 10 years. And after his third term, he declared to his community that he will not stand again because he wanted now to join the East African Legislative Assembly to promote his vision of agriculture. Now, in Parliament of Uganda, Honorable Kasamba worked with a passion for his community. And basically, he wanted his community to grow coffee. So he distributed a lot of coffee seedlings during his time as a member of parliament, to the extent that by the time he left them as a member of parliament, each of them was earning over, I think, 20 million for the community that took over his vision of growing coffee. Over 20 million per annum. And every home had a car, a vehicle for transporting coffee and other things. Even they opened the factory as a group to process coffee. And in his vision still at Parliament, as a committed agriculturalist, it was during his time when he was a chairperson of agriculture that introduced the vision he had of giving every member of parliament maize seedlings. That was what he started with. Maize or bean seeds for every member to go and plant and be an example in the community. So every member gets at least 1 ton to 3 tons of maize seeds or beans to plant. And if they can't plant all, if they don't have the gardens, at least distribute to your constituency. And that one happens up to today. It was him who started it. Every member of parliament in Uganda gets seeds to go and plant. So in the process, actually, when you see a lot of maize, we are producing a lot of maize as Uganda, and we have now the capacity to supply maize to the Republic of South Sudan, to our neighbors in Kenya, to anyone who wants maize. There is maize. This is the vision of Kasamba. We are now able to produce in excess. Even beans, even for himself. I've known Kasamba, in fact, he used to show in our group chat, vast acres of beans, which he has planted. Then another time we would show cassava. Then another time we would show us vast acreage of passion fruits. I remember when we had just started with the COVID, there was a call by government, to bring whatever you can to help the communities that are in need. So people would bring a lot of maize flour, but Kasamba chose to bring a truck full, big truck, over 100 bags of passion fruit, and deliver this passion fruit to the medical workers, in fact, to Ministry of Health, to give the medical workers for, just to give them as his contribution to the medical fraternity as they handle COVID. That was Kasamba. Imagine over 100 bags of passion fruit. What acreage is that? It's so big. So this was someone who was committed in really changing his community and changing whoever got in touch with him with respect to agriculture. He also used to tell us that, you people, why don't you plant jackfruit, like Honorable Habiba said. Then we would ask him, how many have you planted so far? And he would show us pictures that I've planted over 50 acres, and my vision is to plant over 100. And he would say that I'm a billionaire in the making, because he would give you the mathematics of how many fruits of jackfruit per tree, and even if you sell them at 2,000 each, how much, and this is once, that I'm going to plant once, and I'll start earning this money in 5 years. But I think this has occurred before he experienced his vision with being a billionaire in agriculture, especially with the jackfruits. and used to be very proud about it, that, you know, me, I'm planting something that is also medicinal. That's how we talk about it. Honorable Kasamba was someone who was really very open-hearted. In his home, before he built his homestead, you know, for those who visited the Kakuto, you must have seen a house and then a new house. Now, for the 3 terms he served in the Parliament of Uganda, as Honorable Donga said, he dedicated it to his community. Whatever he got, it would be to buy seedlings for coffee. Then also he opened an institute. He called it a training institute for agriculture, where he would engage youth on growing of coffee. And he had big plantations of just seedlings. He would have coffee seedlings waiting to be distributed. Then jackfruit seedlings waiting to distribute. And he would train these youth before he gives them this, because he believed in his people, in helping them be what his vision, what he had as a vision. And indeed, he used to call himself the #1 farmer, as colleagues have said here. But as I conclude, Right Honorable Speaker, I first of all want to thank all of you for the help that you gave as members of Parliament in whatever way you did. Members contributed generously towards his funeral. And Right Honorable Speaker, you even led a delegation all the way to Kakuto. We don't take it for granted. Thank you so much, because during COVID, colleagues risked, you came with colleagues and you risked, but came to that crowd to say your last respects to Honorable Kasamba. Now, Right Honorable Speaker, just to add on what Honorable Munyas said, you see, when we were there, Honorable Dongo was one among us who was appointed or nominated to attend the committee that was responsible for the barrier arrangements. But as much as it was a government function, government took over the function. It was a blessing in disguise for us, because we didn't know what to say. But what does the East African Legislative Assembly have to offer when a member dies? It was a very difficult question to answer, because various phone calls were made here, and it was difficult to get really what is it that the community or East African Legislative Assembly have to offer when a member dies, apart from what the insurance gives to the family. What about at that point in time when we have a body of a member there? What does the community offer? We had no answers. So, Right Honorable Speaker, maybe this is an opportunity now, with the demise of Honorable Kasamba, that we look into this, so that the community has a comprehensive provision on how to handle, perhaps buying a casket, all those things, what the community can provide elaborately, so that in times like this, as much as members definitely contributed like you did the other time, we should also have something to say in the name of what EALA or EAC is offering for barrier arrangements as an institution. So I want to conclude by thanking all of you for the contributions you made, and again to thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, and the team that came to Kakuto for the burial of Honorable Kasamba. May his soul rest in eternal peace.
Thank you, Honorable Rose. Honorable Ambassador Fatuma.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. At the outset, I would like to start by also congratulating the new Secretary General, Dr. Peter Mathuki, and welcome him to the Assembly, and promise that we will work with him closely. Right Honorable Speaker, I would also like to take this opportunity to thank you as our leader for really dedicating this special moment for us to pay tribute to Honorable Matthias Kasamba. We did it in our Agriculture Committee, and it was a very emotional scene. Everybody had something to say, but even that powering of our emotions is healing for us. I would also like to extend once again my condolences to the people and the government of the Republic of Uganda, to his family, for the loss of this gallant son of East Africa and Africa. Honorable Kasamba has touched all of us in many ways. And for me, I remember him as someone who was my neighbor. Where Honorable Rose sits is where he used to sit. And I remember when we were at Fantasy Village, where Honorable Kasamba, I think what they always say that there used to be a debate whether leaders are born or whether leaders are made. But I have a strong feeling that leaders are born, and Kasamba was a born leader, because at the Fantasy Village, we were many, but unanimously, we elected him to be the chief of that village, and we used to call him Igwe. Every time I used to come here, I had to bow to him and say, my Igwe, I'll miss all that. But he was able to organize us, because wherever you have people, there is need for organization. And that showed him his sense of leadership, very pragmatic, a person who was a people-driven, just as the motto of our community, but he's a person who really wanted to make a difference. And I remember him encouraging us to make contributions so that we can be felt as EALA in that community called, I think it's called Musalato. And almost everyone paid a minimum of $20, some paid more. And we were able to plant trees in our community, starting from that new hotel. But we also donated food to orphanage centers. We supported the community in contributing to the construction of a health facility, where we contributed around 100 bags of cement. And we supported community in different ways. And really, after 3 weeks, we were felt in that village. And for me, that was a great lesson, that wherever you are, you have to make a difference and you have to be felt. So he really impacted people in many ways, but that was Honorable Kasamba. He is a person who had great passion for agriculture and food security. It's been said. Sometimes we used to talk informally. Whenever everybody would be making intervention, whether you are talking about health or whatever subject, he said, I didn't hear about food security. What does it mean to talk about a healthy community when some of our people cannot put food on the table? And for him, food security and agriculture had to be a cross-cutting issue. And I really want to urge all of us here that we really need to carry forward that ideal. It's anchored in our treaty. Try to urge the community to prioritize food security and be able to feed our community, because we can never talk about a united and prosperous community when our people, some people, are hungry. So finally, Right Honorable Speaker, in life, whenever everybody is born, at least as believers of God, people who believe in God, We are created for a purpose. And finding one's purpose and following it with passion is what gives meaning to life. Many people find it difficult to identify their passion and their purpose in life. But for Kasamba, he had identified his purpose in life. He led a purpose-driven life, because all of us have consensus on food security, on agriculture. We've been told by Honorable Dong and others how he has even impacted his community in Uganda. Here in East Africa, we saw it. We saw him advocating for Malabo declaration, especially on 10% increase in the budget. So he lived a life with a purpose, and indeed he has left a strong legacy. And therefore, although he's gone, I know Kasamba still lives on, because his deeds and what he lived for, that purpose still lives, and we need really to propel it as his colleagues. Finally, Right Honorable Speaker, I remember in one of his contributions to the debate in this House, he made a proposal that we need to initiate something like the on-spot assessment that we did when we started this assembly. He called it the EAC caravan tour, where the three organs of the assembly, the council, the secretariat, and the assembly, would travel on road, visit our community, see how our people live, and by the time we come here with an agenda based on the realities. I'd like to urge this assembly, through you, Right Honorable Speaker, that we amend that in this motion as action points moving forward, to continue remembering the life of Honorable Kasamba and what he stood for, that we implement this idea of EAC caravan tour. And I think this goes along with what Honorable Secretary General says, team building, but also working together really to improve the livelihoods of the people in the region. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Ambassador Fatou. Microphone. Yes, Honorable Dr. Oguru.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I would also join my colleagues in welcoming our brother, Dr. Maduke, to this August House. I know Dr. Maduke, and when he was appointed to the position of Secretary General of the community, I was very sure that he would hit the ground running. And that is exactly what he has done, because he's an experienced hand in both in the House and generally in the community, and having been the CEO of the East African Business Council. So that is what he has done, and we have welcomed him all. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm also standing here to mourn and pay tribute to my great friend, Honorable Matthias Kasamba, because Honorable Kasamba was indeed a personal friend to me, but apart from that, he was a great leader. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Kasamba has died at a considerably young age, as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Speaker, because he was born in 1963. And in 1963, when he was born, Mr. Speaker, I was already at the university. So Honorable Kasamba could even have been my son. But Mr. Speaker, he was so fatherly, the way he carried himself was not as a young person. You could see that he was so mature and he was ahead of his time. And I sincerely respected him for that. And when I asked him his age, I could not believe, because he knew so much. He was so brilliant, and he was so hardworking, and had very, very strong vision on what he wanted for both his country and for the whole of East African community. He was so passionate about agriculture that when I met him for the first time in Kampala, he was campaigning to be the chair of agricultural committee. And I also had some ambition to be the chair. But before I could even start to campaign, he brought for us so much food, and we provided it to every member. And I thought, is this man bribing me? But then everybody was calling him the best farmer among all of us. And he was so passionate. And from there on, we worked very closely together in issues of agriculture. We were in the same committee. We moved to so many places together in different countries. And I really admired his passion and his drive to do things, to make things happen. One time, he drove from Kampala, I think from Kampala to Arusha through Kenya. And when he arrived here, he called me and told me, Uburu, I have traveled through Kenya, the diversity of your country, and I've seen so much idle land. And yet, you are importing wheat, you are importing maize. Why don't you do something about this? So that, your people need to get food, and that food needs to be produced here in our countries, because we have so much rain, and our land is good, and we need to do something about it so that we are self-sufficient in food production. So I really admired my friend, Honorable Kasamba, and I admired his sense of duty. He was pushing for the implementation of Malabo Declaration. And he wanted all the East African countries to at least allocate 10% of their budgets to agriculture. And this was a very hard thing to do, but he was so passionate. He was, wherever he went, he wanted us to see whoever is to be seen in order to make sure that those things are done. Though he never achieved them, but he really pushed for it, and I'm sure that this is going to be one of his legacies, which I respect very, very much. He even encouraged us as members of the Agricultural Committee to do something in our own capacities, within our own farms, to do something about food production and food, and to ensure that there is food on the table, which is from our own farms and not just from the market that we buy from people. So I don't want to say much, because the colleagues who spoke about me have said a lot about my brother and my friend. I'm very sorry that I could not come to send him off, but those who went on our behalf did a good job. And the contributions Honorable Kasamba made in this house were so many. The motions he moved, and he moved them with a lot of passion. even those which were from the committee and some which he did in his own capacity. And well, Honorable Speaker, I hope we can compile those speeches and those notes of Mr. Kasamba and make them into a booklet which we can read and keep for remembrance of Honorable Kasamba. And I hope the mover will also accept the recommendation of Dr. Warder so that an institution, which he has already started in his own way, establishing an institute for teaching people agriculture, can be established in remembrance of our brother, Honorable Kasamba. So may the Lord Almighty rest the soul of my friend in eternal peace.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dr. Oburu. Honorable Musamari.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for being able to see me, and you gave me this opportunity to make a contribution towards this motion. But Honorable Speaker, before I say a few words about our colleague, the Honorable Kasamba, allow me a minute, because this is the right time, to congratulate the Right Honorable Secretary General, the Honorable Peter Mathuki, for joining us and for his appointment as the Secretary General of the East African Community. I'm aware that he's not here, but the system goes up to his office because of his busy schedule. I'm sure he wanted to handle a number of things while listening to this debate. And therefore, I want to say this, and I'm sure
he excused himself with meeting a group of Timea, one of our partners.
Okay.
But indeed, this system is connected to our offices.
Okay. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to say about two things about the Honorable Mathuki as our Secretary General. One is that we have a lot of hope in him because of the experience he has, having served as a member of EALA here, first of all. So for us as members of EALA, we are happy that we have our own, who is now a Secretary General of the East African Community. Two, Honorable Mathuki also worked as the Chief Executive Officer of the East African Business Council. We believe that his experience while at the Business Council, he will use it to fast track all the impediments in terms of trade, and as far as trade is concerned in East Africa. Lastly, Honorable Mathuki is also a worker, is a workers activist. He has been in the movement of the workers, and we believe he will use this experience.
Point of order.
So, Honorable Musamari, can you proceed and debate the motion?
Point of order or clarification,
Yes,
Honorable Speaker.
I just want Honorable Musamari to comply with my directive, or I move to another member. You can congratulate the new member briefly, but then you shouldn't spend most of your time on that item because there is a substantive motion on the floor.
I was raising point of order and
yes, Honorable Wanjifu.
Honorable Speaker, I was raising a point of order in regard to the phrase that Honorable Musamali is using. I know he's meaning well in regard to the circumstances of this assembly, but I think as a honorable member, he can rephrase, especially the activism. Thank you.
Okay, I think your own intervention is already a form of correction. So, and because it becomes a part of the record, then the intention will be put in the right context.
Honorable Speaker.
So, Honorable Musamari, can you?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. First of all,
wait a moment. consider the motion we are debating and the nature of the motion we are debating, and the need not to deviate from this. We have all our time ahead of us, so let us focus on what we dedicated this day for. And I think all of you would agree with me that it is befitting. Yes. Honorable Musamali, proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. But I think, let me also put this record clear. This is not a drama theater. And I did not mean anything wrong. And by the way, when you say someone is an activist, it doesn't mean he's an activist on a wrong side. He's someone who is actively working on something to achieve a given goal. It will depend whether someone is for a bad cause or for a good cause. So for this matter, the Honorable Mathuki has been in the workers' movement to promote the good cause of workers. So I think, Honorable Speaker,
Yeah, Honorable
and Honorable Speaker, this was my last
yes,
bit.
I have his resume.
So
wait a moment. You know, when I'm speaking, you just have to be careful not to speak at the same time. So I have his resume, and I can confirm that Honorable Mathuki was involved with the workers' movements. He's a serious advocate of the workers' rights, and he's positively an activist in that area. So proceed with the debate now of the motion.
thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for your wise ruling. But Honorable Speaker, you see, let us not wait for people to die before we start talking good about them. So just give me only 30 seconds. I'd say the last word on Honorable Mathuki. The reason is that this thing is very important, Honorable Speaker. The Honorable Mathuki said, he said that this house is stronger than he left. I want to tell him that no, there is a very big problem. There are efforts to weaken this house, and therefore he should work. And this is the only time I can say that, Honorable Speaker. I don't have another time I can say it. So the Honorable Secretary General, he should not now think that this house is stronger than he left. Let him work to ensure that we get back to that strength which he wanted us to be there. Two, he also said that he is going to be a team player. Honorable Speaker, as you are aware, I sometimes play football. And you have also been, you are a supporter of one of those teams. But you have seen at times, people go in a pitch, 11 this side, 11 the other side. But you are going to see one person trying to, is a defender, but he wants to play from defense up to scoring. He doesn't want to share with others. So if we are a team player, it's not that we are going to be there just to participate, but you give us the ball, we pass it, and then you as a speaker, you score it. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Now to the Honorable Kasamba. One is that I worked with the Honorable Kasamba in the Parliament of Uganda. He worked very hard to establish the parliamentary committee in charge of East African affairs. So the committee in Parliament of Uganda, which is responsible for East African affairs, it is the product of Honorable Kasamba. Two, as you have all mentioned, the Honorable Kasamba worked very hard to promote agriculture and food security. He said, I'm not going to repeat what other members have said, but he said, one of the reasons why there is violence in the world is because of hunger. If you provided food to people, you will not see them become violent. And for you who have visited the animals, these lions, they are very shrewd. But if a lion is very satisfied, it will receive a cobra or a zebra or any other animal just passing and did not what? Attack. meaning that the Honorable Kasamba, the violence which is going on all over the world, and the hunger which is all over in East Africa, even amidst plenty, you will find the northern part of Uganda, for example, northeastern part of Uganda, for example, there is hunger. But in the western, they are providing food. So when he came up to advocate for food security all over Uganda, and now even in East Africa, we see that this is a person who was passionate about the peace in the whole world as a result of having food security. I want to say that because of his passion and his urge for many of us to get involved, I am one of those who was not very good at agriculture. I would find it very difficult to get involved in mud that I'm digging or I'm doing what. But as I talk now, I am one of those who are now struggling to come up with farming as a farmer. So this is because of his urge and his appeal to all of us. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, I think let us use this and pick up lessons from what happened to our colleague. We can't do much because we have no control over death. But what lessons can we pick from there? One, as we talk in East African community, Honorable Rose hinted on it, we do not have a budget for such eventualities. We don't have a budget for such eventualities. But if I may import the experience from the Parliament of Uganda, that when they are making a budget, we are preparing a budget, like this one which we are going to prepare, they will include that we expect, I even did want to say this, but this is what they say, that we expect that in the unlikely circumstance, 5 members and 3 staff may pass on. And then include that in the what? In the budget. I'm aware that there were attempts like that here, and then that budget somehow was removed. I think of $48,000 it was removed because members were wondering if the 1 year goes and nobody has passed on, where does that money go? But I think it is easy. That money goes back to the general reserve and then keeps on your kind. So this is a very serious lesson, Honorable Speaker, we should pick, and we should, as we consider the next budget, we should include this so that we don't go into hig-haga or gambling when a member has passed on. Secondly, the Honorable Kasamba looked normal when we were with him. In fact, the very last time he collapsed, he fainted and collapsed, we were there, the 3 of us, Honorable Dennis, Honorable Odonga and myself, and other members. When he collapsed and he was evacuated. But before that, he looked normal. And as you are all aware, he looked normal. Meaning that this tumor probably could have started sometime back and he was not aware. So the second lesson which we learned from here is that all of us, it should be a lesson that all of us, we take time, we give ourselves time, we go for routine medical checkups to check ourselves and see what could be the problem here and there. Let us not wait probably to collapse, to faint, or to start falling sick before we go to hospitals. And this one, Honorable Speaker, I learned this from when we lost one of the generals in Uganda in 2007. When you lose a person like this, you wonder, you start asking yourself, am I not the next person? Because the person has just died and you are with even him. You start even fearing that maybe you may be the next person. But we also ask ourselves, every time they are preaching that God wants only good people, that God only wants good people. I don't know now whether God wants us to remain bad people so that we remain on us, or what we need to do. But I think maybe the timing is what matters. When we lost the general in Uganda, Brigadier General Nobo Mayombo, 2007, I had a friend who was next to me at Parliament. And then this lady was really wailing, crying, and said, God, why of all people did you take Noble Mayombo? He was one of those generals who was liked in the country. He said, of all people, why did you take Noble Mayombo? Then she said, if you wanted a general, why did you ask us? We would give you 5 brigadiers. If you wanted a brigadier, we would give you 5 of them. If you wanted the 5 full generals, we can't even multiply. Oh God, why did you take Noble Mayombo? And then he said, by the way, even if you wanted the Minister of Defense himself, we would give it to you. Now, Honorable Speaker, if I were to borrow those words, and we come here and we say, God, why did you take Honorable Kasamba? If you wanted somebody in the community, you would ask us, we would give us. Those we would give. If you wanted us in the secretariat, we would give even 5 of them. Unfortunately, it was taken.
Just want to remind you that.
May his soul rest in peace.
Okay, I think Honorable Musamari is a humorous member, but he doesn't wish anyone taken. He doesn't wish anyone taken. He's just being humorous. I'm going to pick another list. Honorable Kennedy, Honorable Simon, Honorable Aburi Mpuru, Honorable Rosie, Mary, Honorable Mary, yes. Honorable Dr. Guijema, Honorable Alak, Honorable Francoise. After this group, I will come here, right? There is time for all of you. Let us just try to be brief so that we have time for everyone.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. Let me first say that I support this motion.
Honorable members, order. Now, Samari, you see the problem we have caused.
Because we suspect where he will have gotten the first name from.
I'm not part of that. Okay, please.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. It's always a challenge to speak after Honorable Msumali, who I enjoy listening to. From the onset, let me say that I support this motion. But before I substantiate it, I would like to take just 30 seconds or so to welcome and congratulate our new Secretary General, who I have confidence in, who he played a strong role in some of us coming back. Now, on the motion before this House, being a young person and where I'm from, you know, I border Honorable Abdikadir. It's a very dry area. So I didn't know about farming. I knew about, you know, cows and goats. But when I met Honorable Kasamba, he was always encouraging us and myself to, you know, go into farming. You know, it was a very foreign concept. He even brought for me some strange looking fruit, a jackfruit, which I'm told has many nutritional values. I'd never seen it before. And he had time for all of us to sit and learn from him. And as we speak, I've also ventured into a bit of farming. I'll give the House an update on how I fare. But
some of your updates. Honorable Kalonzo breeds bulls, fattens them, and sells them, and he makes a lot of money out of that. And he rears goats as well.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. So, my dear colleagues, this is a heavy loss for all of us. Whenever I spoke and had time to research on the issues Honorable Kasamba was passionate about, such as food security, it dawned on me that the future wars won't be as previous wars. These future wars will be wars over farming land, over water. I'm sure this House, as we speak, is aware of the tensions between our neighbors, Egypt and Ethiopia, over simply, you know, water and being able to farm. So having considered that, I want to take this opportunity to condole with the people of East Africa, this House, and particularly the family of Honorable Kasamba in Uganda. And finally, to encourage all of us to continue with the vision of a food secure East Africa, free of these barriers, where our farmers will be able to export and import amongst ourselves. I believe and I share the vision of Honorable Kasamba that the EAC community is a region that is blessed, that can feed itself. We should not hear of hunger in this our community when we are so blessed with so much food. So I want to encourage all of us to continue with the zeal that Honorable Kasamba led us with and demonstrated on the issues of food security. I submit, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Kennedy, and thank you most specifically for being brief. Honorable Simon.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. First, I would like to join my colleagues in thanking and congratulating Honorable Peter Mathuki for being our new Secretary General. And I also join my colleagues telling them that the future looks very bright with Honorable Mathuki, who has been in this house, and he knows the problems that most of the members and the community would face. I also want to take this opportunity to thank our colleagues who represented us in the burial of Honorable Kasamba. And it brings a tear to my eye to lose such a person, such a gentle person. And I would say that my tribute today goes to a friend, to a brother, to a colleague, and to a great political mobilizer, and a farmer and a statesman. And this man, by the name of Kasamba, inculcated
that he did it with so much energy, so much commitment. And the way today I decided to wear yellow, as much as the yellow I could land my hands on, because for the last 1.5 years that we've been away, Matthias Kasamba was always in yellow, and I saw him on my national TV almost every day in yellow. But that is the level of commitment and energy that Honorable Kasamba put in everything that he was entrusted to do. He was committed to God. Those of you who were able to join us to see him off, you saw the bishop and his church, the Catholic Church, and how their presence and what they were doing. Very committed to God, that I almost was praying every day in the Catholic faith, because he forwarded these prayer forwards, where there is the Catholic people here would understand it better. There was this child who starts the prayer, and then the priest comes on. So every day, because at one time I complained that he was overcrowding you probably remember that he was overcrowding our inboxes with so many forwards. So we talked about it, and so we settled that he can forward it to me, because I have found the prayer messages useful. So I was able to follow his God and what he was praying about. I'm not a very religious person, personally. He was very committed to his people, his level of mobilization, his capacity to build a team. He has started a school, by the way, an agricultural school, in his former constituency, in his home, Kakuto. And I would request, if I can add it to the motion, that the village school, the farm school that Honorable Kasamba started, which is in his former constituency and his home, could be adapted and owned and supported, I think that's the right word, by the EAC and EALA in particular, because it's helping the ordinary person. His passion now was about the village model of fighting poverty. That was his new song, the village model, the village model. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons why he did not want to leave the Leadership Institute where we were with him was that he wanted to present a paper jointly with the Minister of Agriculture of Uganda about the village model of fighting poverty in the country. Unfortunately, he did not leave to do that. So we missed him when that paper was being presented, but it was presented, and very well. So his level of commitment, indeed, he served 3 terms in the Parliament of Uganda. I served 2, and I retired on my own. And we had spoken about the fact that we would aspire either to go to one of the regional parliaments, either EALA or the Pan-African Parliament, if ever it becomes independent of the national parliaments. It has never become. So we have ended up both in EALA. So after 3 terms, he also retired. We found ourselves coming here once again. Honorable Kasamba defied so many odds. He refused to be disabled. As a matter of fact, he was more able than many of us who are able, who have not lost any limb. He lost his arm when he was an adult. And since then, he refused to be driven by anybody else. He drove himself with his one arm every day of his life. He was commuting from Kampala to Kakuto, where You now know the distance, Right Honorable Speaker. He defied to be defined as a disabled person who is unable to do ABCD. And he showed us by example. He was so committed to his country. He was a patriot. In the real sense, he fought the isms of tribalism, of sexism, where women are not supposed to do this or do that, or, you know, the kind of debate we play about when we are talking. Kasamba would not subscribe to that. He was so committed to his party. The NRIM, he went around the region, the country, mobilizing day and night. And he was given names, nicknames in every culture, every language. The Okello that he was talking about, the Achelis named him Matia Okello. And I think it is the Karamajong or the Langis, Honorable George would tell us better, from the north, who nicknamed him Lokolong. When he came down to the south, he was known as Umsheja, the man. And he danced all the dances. There is no dance that he would not dance. And that's how he mobilized. And that is how the head of state was able to identify him and say, I want that man to be the chief mobilizer for the party. And then, of course, he was told, but he's a member of the East African Legislative Assembly. He can't hold 2 jobs. He said, that's the man I want. He encompasses everything about what I would want in a cadre for the party. He was a good cadre. And he did it. And he delivered the results very well because he could really, really bond with the rural communities very well. And that's where the party is most strong. He did his work. And so he'll be missed. He left a beautiful, beautiful family, which we saw. Very well-educated children, well brought up. At least they have somewhere to start. There's a lot of love around them. We give our condolences to the widow and to the family indeed. He was a Pan-Africanist. Honorable Kasamba, about the issues of integration every day, we must integrate our region. I just want to repeat some of his very favorite words. Integration of East Africa was a song. Self-sufficiency in food was his daily word, changing the mindset of the African people. We must change our people's mindset. We have to remove the mental barriers, Then championing this or that. We are champions of food security. We are champions of this. I will cherish some of the seedlings that he shared, the jackfruit. Unfortunately, many of them died during the dry season, but those which survived are just a beginning for me to start and indeed follow his legacy and grow the jackfruit. We both distributed coffee in our constituencies from the Coffee Development Authority. For the first time, my constituency started growing coffee. It's now one of the income earners. That's Matthias Kasamba. You also talked a lot about the need for our people to eat 3 meals a day. 3 meals a day, 3 meals a day. And then at one time I said to him when we were in that Igwe place in Dodoma, where he became the Igwe of the village, that many people now don't need 3 meals. He said most of the people can't afford it. Let them have the choice to have the 3 meals. That's how committed he was. I want to end by thanking you colleagues who traveled all the way to come to the very deep rural Uganda and see Honorable Kasamba off. Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. for mobilizing us, for the image of EALA that we presented before the people of Uganda, for the many contributions that colleagues you are able to raise and give. It really put us on the right footing in terms of the image that we presented in Uganda. What do we learn from Honorable Kasamba? A lot that we all know. Let's give more to love than to hate. It actually pays. This man was such a free spirit. Today we stand here to say farewell. May your legacy live on. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mary. Honorable Dr. William.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, to give me the floor. And I wanted to add my voice and to my colleague and then contribute to the support of this motion. I support this motion, Right Honorable Speaker. But before doing this, let me also congratulate the new Secretary General, Dr. Peter Matuki. Dr. Peter Matuki, I know him very well. We were together in EALA 3, and he is a man of action, and he is a man of relationship also. And I have some petty stories with him because when I was doing my studies, I was doing my PhD, he was studying also. And we used to interact and to exchange and give some advice each other. When I heard that he was nominated as the new SG, Right Honorable Speaker, I say, my goodness, this is okay. I know this man is inspiring hope. And I know he is a man who will be able to make a change and to improve action of the community. Right Honorable Speaker, I cannot continue before I say you thank you and congratulations. I congratulate you because of what you did, how you managed to deal with these unexpected events. While we lost our colleague, Honorable Kasamba, you did it in such a way that we were very honored. We were not able to participate, but those who participated really, it was very, very great. And secondly, I wanted to thank you for this session because now we can talk and we can exchange. We know the death it comes when it won't. We don't know if it goes forever. We have to give support to each other. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Coming back to the matter for our colleague, Honorable Kasamba, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Kasamba, he was a friend of all of us. He was a friend of all of us. He was really an exemplary human being. He was a patriot, but he was also a nationalist, but also a Pan-Africanist. saying inside his country in Uganda, he was a senior honorary Mukada. He was a strong man, he was a great man, and a great man of peace. He was not only for political matters, but for many, I can say, multidimensional actions. Right, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Kasamba, I have to remember him for really forever because I have a story with him. When we made the activity in Kigali, in Rwanda, he had that I was also trying in agriculture. I was not like him. He was a very strong farmer. But he asked me to come to visit me. I say, yes, come and visit me. Perhaps you can advise me. He come. When he come, he ran away all my property. And when he called the workers and he made a meeting for some recommendation. And then he made us to learn how we work for banana plantation and how we can save water. And then he asked me to extend and then to start doing rice. Speaker, I tell you, this I started because of him. And now for the rice, I am approaching per season around 100 tons. This is very important for a friend who come not only to see, but he come also to advise. Right, Honorable Speaker, I was about to send some of my workers in Uganda for training in his Institute of Agriculture. He was really a very good man. He had a passion for family. He was a loyal son of the soil for the farming. And not only that, President Speaker, he was a charismatic politician and the Pan-Africanist, as I said, but he was someone having a life of humility. Not humility only, but spirituality also, with tolerance, multidimension, and in fire, and enthusiastic, very dedicated person, that I told the Speaker. I can say many things, but let me say that we convey our sincere and heartfelt condolence to the bereaved family and the two Uganda chapter, to the Uganda country at large, and the two East African community. Right, Honorable Speaker, I thank the government of Uganda because he wanted an official barrier to let Kasamba because of his tremendous work while he was still alive. We really thank the government of Uganda. Right now, Speaker, I have one more thing to add. Is that, Speaker, Kasamba was born in 63, yeah, and 57, I think, his age. I was 10 years ahead of him. It's terrible. What Mheshimiwa Somali was saying, if God has asked us to choose who to give, it was not Kasamba, because it was not possible to see him really die. Right, Mr. Speaker, we have lost another member of the parliament, Honorable Afsa Mosi, while serving. I think we have to see, right, Honourable Speaker, this is in the question which is not answered, what the community deserves to the remaining of the family of someone, a member of the community or a member of EALA who died. This is very important because we have to see what to do as we are the lawmakers. And I think we have also to plan to see how we will remember the part of the members. If we can get something like a tree, like something that we can sometimes remember them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank you very much. And I suppose
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Mijema. Honorable Alak.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Before I support this important motion, I congratulate Honorable Dr. Peter Mathuki as the new Secretary General of the EAC. Right Honorable Speaker, the late Honorable Matthias Kasamba had touched the lives of all of us in this assembly for the last 2.5 years. I first saw the late Honorable Kasamba in 2006 when he came with President Museveni to Juba for the talks with the LRA. When I came and got him here, I could not recognize him well, but he told me he was in Juba in 2006 going with President Museveni. I had thought by then his hand was cut by LRA, but he told me that it was an accident when he was traveling on a truck. Now, Right Honorable Speaker, the late Matthias, we came into contact very much when he was leading us, when we were traveling on the Northern Corridor tour from Mombasa to Kenya, to Uganda, and to Kigali. He really led us very well, and that's when I saw his leadership qualities. In fact, the late Kasamba was an achiever. He had a dream, he had a vision, which he implemented in the Uganda, which honorable members have mentioned before, particularly Honorable Rose Akol. And then he decided to come to this level of the Parliament of East Africa so that he also passes the vision so that the East Africans really picked it up. Honorable Kasamba is the type of a person, when you are in the army and you have an officer like Kasamba, you are really happy because this is, you call him a morale booster. He would boost the morale of the troops all the time because his spirit, he was an optimist. So we miss him because he was a morale booster in this assembly. And the way most of my colleagues have spoken about him, I would take it, as that most of us are his disciples in this assembly. And it was very good of you to have taken it upon yourself to attend the funeral with some of the members who were there. I was particularly also shocked when Honorable Mbidi dropped. He said, Kasamba is dead, in the forum.
and all the comments poured after that. So he really touched the lives of all of us, the way he was relating to people, the way he was passionate about farming, which is the real survival of East Africa, because for us to survive in East Africa, we have to concentrate on agriculture, which he picked up passionately, and he inspired many of us here that when you do not have food, people quarrel. So in actual fact, he was a peacemaker. When he came to Juba, he came as a peacemaker, but he felt that it was important that he concentrate on food production so that the people of East Africa, they have something to eat and they are happy. And there is prosperity in East Africa. So, Right Honorable Speaker, to add my voice to all my colleagues that have spoken, I support this motion. For paying tribute to our late brother, colleague, Honorable Kasamba. His vision, his spirit will continue and will continue to be his disciples. So, Honorable Speaker, I will not go very far, very much, but I support the motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Alak. Honorable Francois. Honorable Alak, you can switch off your microphone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. I take this opportunity as well to also welcome the new member of this assembly, Honorable Dr. Peter Mathuki. Actually, we are reading in him that the EAC as a region, our future is really brighter if we work as a team. And this house is committed to support him as well. I appreciate that this August House is considering a motion to pay tribute to the late Honorable Mathias Kasamba, a motion I fully support, maybe with two small, I can't call them amendments, but considerations on the same, because the motion throughout starting from the second paragraph for us, upon the commencement of the fourth assembly, the name of the committee was a bit changed. Agriculture, tourism, and natural resources, as it is well read under Annex 5D of the rules of procedure. I think we can keep the name the way it is so that we don't confuse the documentation, because in acronyms it's read ATNR. So if we reverse the order, it will read differently. With this amendment, it can be done. Another amendment will come in addition to recommendation when I reach the part of recommendations. Mr. Speaker, actually, I'm one of the late Honorable Mathias Kasamba disciples in 2 ways. First of all, I served my first term of agriculture, tourism and natural resources as a member. Honorable Mathias Kasamba was the chairperson, and it's not little time, 2.5 years, to be a good disciple or to have a good leader or not. Honorable Mathias Kasamba has been a true leader, and he chaired the committee with wisdom, and I benefited with other colleagues from his wisdom. And also, the second way is as a believer from Catholic Church, but also I appreciated his ecumenism. that is about Christians, but he went beyond even ecumenism to include other believers, Muslims, and any others. I remember when we were in Dodoma, we used to go together to Catholic Church to pray. The same in Zanzibar. Honorable Jean-Claude can witness about that. When we went to Zanzibar, we were really impressed by a number of Christians and Catholics in Zanzibar. We thought the believers were just Muslims, but with Honorable Kasamba went there and we discovered that part of also believers, and we commended the government of Zanzibar for allowing Christians also to pray. And I was one of the members that joined his initiative of Wednesday parliamentary prayer. And we used to call him the patron. And Mr. Speaker, if I can recall about his humility, he used to say, no, I'm not the patron, because the patron is Right Honorable Speaker. And this initiative was still at the level of EALA and staff, EALA members and staff, but now we have heard that it was extended to the entire EAC staff. It's a good practice, and we may suggest that it continues. Mr. Speaker, I also thank you for having given me the opportunity to be the eyewitness about his well-deserved descent send-off in the Kiotera district. I think it is a great occasion to extend my deepest condolences to his family, because I'm doing it furthermore. EAC farmers via the association called ESAF, and appreciate the annual summit of farmers that normally is held annually, and this year, 2021, it hasn't happened yet, and I hope this good practice will continue. And also, I take the same occasion to also extend my condolences to Acholi women, whereby his farm and institute is located, young girls, boys, and children. He was supporting for this great loss. The entire region, the assembly in particular, have lost a highly articulate legislator. We are all aware of that. He was committed to the cause of the East African community integration, guided by Article 7, sub-Article 1A of the treaty, and this is about people-centered and market-driven cooperation under the operational principles of the East African community. But at the same time, he was passionate about the implementation of Articles 105, 106, and 1110 of the treaty under agriculture and food security. To make sure these above articles are implemented, the late Honorable Kasamba has raised his bar higher even with an outstanding performance under socio-economic transformation, as already mentioned about those young girls, women, children, and so on, a commitment that has been driving him to work very hard. He matched his speeches with his actions to make sure responsible investments in agriculture are really made. And here, let me again say that the Malabo Declaration commitment by the head of state, EAC head of states, all of them, was monitored under his leadership. From passion to actions, he moved motions relating to agriculture and pushed its agenda forward. For instance, he championed the tree planting